This one's called Eulogy. And I got the idea after I went with Herb, that's my husband, one day to a wrecking yard and saw all the things that were happening to all those cars and pieces of junk that they had piled. The enormous thing that reached down and grabbed it. Eulogy. When monstrous metal monsters die, they go to a junkyard. There they lie, until an ogre with a 3-pronged claws crushes them in his mighty jaws, then regurgitates them section by section. Such technological resurrection. This one is about my mother. She died in the 90s. Before she died, she had dementia. She was a very practical woman. And when she went, my brother and I were faced with picking a casket for her. And this is what I wrote. We laid her to rest in a quilted bed with a silken pillow under her head. Earthly remains in their last retreat, a casket spread with a satin sheet. Like a lighted candle in the dark that flickers then dims on a dying spark, so all that was being faded in retreat. What stayed we displayed on a satin sheet. In life she was gentle, constant, and kind, with a melting heart and a practical mind. She would have thought it sheer conceit to sleep on a bed with a satin sheet. Last tribute to the parting light. Last goodbye before the long good night. Forgive us, Mama, our last deceit, and sleep in peace on your satin sheet. This one's also about my mom. Her last years, she didn't know it. She didn't know us. Dementia just took her life away. It's called Back Home. She talked of simple childish things, winter's cold and early springs, a hand-me-down dress and a jewel comb, memories she had of being back home. My papa was a musical man, she'd say, with a wave of her work-worn hand. In the fall of 18, he died with the flu. A part of me died that day, too. Mama was left, she'd sigh and complain, with 4 little kids and not a dime to her name. For all of its trouble and all of its woe, back home was the place she wanted to go. Back home is where I met your dad. She smiled at the special way she had. My people said it's not wise to choose to marry a man with sand in his shoes. Then she'd sigh again and shake her head. I didn't listen to what my people said. And someday, how her heart would yearn for that last going back, that coming home. Back home became for me a place that time and distance can't erase, a sight to cherish, a point to bind, a location memory can always find. The passing years took their heavy toll. I grew up and she grew old. When we talked, and we did now and then, in her mind, she was going home again. Back to that fixed but vanished abode, back down that never-ending road. She all wandered in a murky maze, looking for better, happier days. We laid her to rest in a little spot on a windswept hill, the perfect spot. Safe at last, no more to roam. We took her to be forever back home. And this one is about my dad. He was such a macho man, but he was a wonderful father. And I took care of him the last years of his life. And it always hurt me to see that he couldn't see. And he was so frail after he'd been such a strong person. And it's called Passage. Frail and feeble, old and bent, his years are many, his life far spent. I watch him and think with a sorrowful sigh, there with the passing years go I. Once the hero, the conquering blade, Now the race is over, the story is made. Nevermore will he battle and quest. In the short, sated season, time will rest from his quivering but tenacious clutch. The little that now is so much, in a short, still silence will confiscate, darken, obscure, and obliviate. This is, I wrote this because I'm not so bad now, but when I was young, it seemed every time I opened my mouth, I put my foot in it. So I wrote this. Ever since I was very young, barbed wire has grown upon my tongue. I never mean to be unkind, but it seems each time I speak my mind, the words I say have a caustic dimension when diplomacy was my intention. He says that you are the love of his life. Huh, that's what he told his second wife. You think Mary's an extrovert. I say Mary's a silly flirt. Your new gown is the latest rage. Styles for someone half your age. It seems each time I speak the truth, I am caustic, ill-disposed, uncouth. For me to live is not to learn. Each time I speak, it's out of turn. Ever since I was very young, barbed wire has grown upon my tongue. I've improved greatly in the last few years, I promise you. I wrote this after we had a storm. We lived in the country and we had a storm, and the storm said, the weatherman said a little tornado, and it wasn't really bad, but it blew the roof off our house and took our porch swing off and put it in a tree in the backyard. But what amazed me, we sat on the front porch and waited for it to show up. And when it did, it blew. But before that, everything was so still, so quiet. This is not the one I was thinking about, but anyway, this is one that, I got the wrong one. This is the one that I wrote about after seeing little yellow flowers grow in the yard. And you think about all the big blessings and the big miracles God sends us, but little yellow flowers are a miracle too, to me. The whole world holds pomp and pageantry of governments and powers, boasts of vast and scenic majesty, and little yellow flowers. The creator of all endless space, who lives in timeless hours, is maker of the human race and little yellow flowers. A world too vast, an unseen God who haunts eternal bowers. I can't believe, for I see how sod grows little yellow flowers. I wrote this one after I learned that one of my cousins had died. Her name is not Alice, even though I've titled it Alice, mainly because if one of her children changed to read it, I didn't want them to know I was talking about their mother. But this is named Alice. Sam came in the evening before sundown, sat on the porch wearing a frown, asked, "Did you hear?" I replied, "No, been waiting." He said, "Alice died." When, I asked. He looked away, sometime early yesterday. How? I prayed, please God, don't reply in pain. She shouldn't have to die the way she lived, in the shadow, heartache and betrayal and loss of love. Let it be an easing across, a sense of gain, not a feeling of loss. Sam bowed his head in a monotone, said, "No one knows she was alone." An ache moved in to bruise my soul. A sadness took its anguished toll. Alone, that solemn immensity of that little word swept over me. What in the universe can atone for being left to die alone? Anytime you want to ask something, I'll have an answer. Maybe I don't know. I wrote this one I guess after I was feeling sorry for myself because I'd turned 45. Longing, rain falling down, bone-chilling cold, leaves dry and brown, or I'm growing old. Somewhere the sun shines, the air is balmy sweet. How my heart pines to turn my weary feet back, yes, back to travel from now to then, where fantasies don't unravel and I'm young again. I was young then, but I stood back. This one is a product of sheer orneriness, I guess. It's called The Gunslinger's Wife. When the West was young and the frontier unclaimed, the Republic was new, her boundaries untamed, across the wide prairie to the tangle of brush rode Hank Todd the gunslinger, all in a rush, hell-bent for leather with blood in his eye until a bullet sent him to the sweet by and by. 3 months after he was laid to rest with his boots on his feet and a hole in his chest, across the state plains and into the town came a fair-haired beauty in a calico gown. She found the man who had taken Hank's life and informed him she was the gunslinger's wife. She'd come to avenge the death of Hank Todd, to slay and pain beneath the sod the man who had taken her lover's life, so promised the frail, lovely gunslinger's wife. Down on his knees went the smitten man to plead, implore for the lily-white hand of the woman who promised such turmoil and strife. He'd fallen in love with the gunslinger's wife. Sometimes now, when there is no moon, the ghost of old Hank whistles a tune. Happy is he on his afterlife, knowing who is married to the gunslinger's wife. This one I wrote when we lived in the country. We drove down a country road to go to Lowell to go to the grocery store. And this is about a field that we drove by so many times. It's called Scenery and Seasons. Between McHarvey's auction barn and the cutoff to New Algiers lies a stretch of fallow farmland that hasn't been planted in years. In summer, a blazing, blistering sun turns its crop of weeds to brown. Once a strike of August lightning set a fire that burned to the edge of town. In autumn, it's a tangled maze of undergrowth and stubble, as now and then a brave green sprout rises from the decaying rubble. In winter, frost cuts the ground, evergreen and growing fain, leaving death and desolation, until one day late in spring, all the wonder of the magic has slowly from death and confusion, wildflowers bloom and blossom in grand and glorious profusion. O beauty, for all your brevity, I see in your short-lived perfection how brief is life, how sure is death, how splendid the hope of resurrection. Any questions? Okay. This is called After the Ball. You can't two-step through life, my friend. Sooner or later, the music will end. The clock strikes 12. Cinderella's illusion dissolves and disintegrates into confusion. She who would cavort must a piper play. After the night comes the light of day, and the charming prince, so noble and tall, who searched for the princess after the ball, when the magic of the spell unravels, often packs his bags and travels. You can't two-step through life, my friend. Sooner or later, the music will end. This one's called Lonely Sounds. Where we lived, we were a long way from, from the railroad track, but we could hear the whistle late at night. It would just blow. It was so sad, so mournful. So this is lonely sound. The mournful whistle of faraway train speeding along, southward bound, shrieking in tones loud and profane, is a woeful, lost, and lonely sound. An auto horn that blasts the peace of an empty street in a sleeping town, as it echoes and ricochets will release a lonely, neglected, abandoned sound. A wanton wind on a winter morning, blowing across the desolate ground, sighing in whispers low and forlorn in a lonely, melancholy sound. A long-forgotten melody returning to ridicule and confound as it wafts across memory as a lingering, lonely sound. A soft serenade of weeping when sorrow a heartache impounds, to hold fast for misery's keeping is the loneliest of lonely sounds. I wrote this poem for my husband. It's called Before. It wasn't published until after he died. Before night lifted to reveal first light of creation's day, before the division, before the repeal, spun a firmament on its way, before form validated space and land emerged from sea, before order chaos ordered in replace, our love was predestined to be. Before the very first, it was so, as the word produced the deed. Before the gathering and letting go, conceal the fruit in the seed. Before sky above and earth below, signs unseen was gained. This settled fact, I know, our love was preordained. This one's called Destination. And it's just something that came to mind. I had no real inspiration for it other than my imagination. I'm a genie in a jar, in a little space I've traveled far. I do not know my destination. Such is the fate of encapitalization. Through a glass darkly now I see. I wonder could some wizardry uncast the spell, unscrew the cap, gently give the vessel a tap. Or is, say, traverse from your little jar, walk away without a scar, or is the price of passage, alas, the track, the struggle, the shattered glass? This one is called Afterthought, because making decisions are really difficult for me, and after I finally make it, I doubt myself and I question, well, did I do the right thing? This one's called Afterthought. In choice there is freedom, a sovereignty of volition that liberates to bind again with silver cords of contrition. What is lost in selecting is the cost of chosen gain. Option is instant's border, and contemplation's obeying. In perfection there is peril. After irrevocable selection comes doubt, then deliberation, and restless introspection. This one is called Scar, and I think it comes from having been hurt, trying to get over it and finding out it takes a while. Say what you will, do what you please. A wound heals only by degrees. There is no moment's medication, no swift and sudden liberation that will immediately convert the trauma of an instant hurt. Hours, days, and months attest. Healing is a slow process. Only time can leave behind the crusting scab, the puckered line. Passing years, casting afar, offer relief and a fading scar. This one is about writing poetry. It's sometimes how I feel about it. It's called remission. It returns again from time to time, this affliction to set to lilting rhyme, sad and summary discrepancies, along with the soaring disparities. The dispute and different argument debate, rhyme has potent power to medicate every paradox, each ambiguity that wounds the poet's soul in me. Meter mitigates the endless quest, eases pain that throbs in my breast, that gives balance and symmetry to the soothing ache of incongruity. The pen brings momentary cessation and temporary amelioration. There's no permanent healing, not even in verse, for a terminal blessing that is also a curse. I wrote this one very recently after I'd been in the hospital for several days and began to question myself if I ever was going to be able to go home again. It's called Death Come. Death come quickly, I can wait, if you linger or lag or hesitate. Death comes softly with a quiet tread to alleviate my fear and dread. When you arrive, your procedure reverse. I do not wish to linger, rehearse, or hang on with tenacity to affliction, woe, and agony. Cut the silver cord with one swift blow, one painful, passionate letting go. This one's called A Little Knowledge, and it's inspired also from opening my mouth when I should have been listening. A little knowledge, although I was a midget, I was safe among the sleeping giants, so long as I was dumb. With knowledge came the syllables I learned that I could speak. Dwarfs who orate are tempting fate if giants are asleep. This one is called Interest, just a sort of a take on how time flees, how it gets away from you, and sometimes how we feel like we pay a price for some of the things we get from time. It was a bartered moment. I knew that I would pay in prearranged installments because I know the way that dealers in the instant exact such usury, and often for a little time demand eternity. This one is called Mirage, and I wrote it after seeing a mirage in the road when we were driving. On a broad highway in the heat of the day, sudden sly confusion. The water that's spread in the road ahead is an optical illusion. When the eye deceives, first the mind believes, embracing the delusion. Then knowledge defaces, but never erases the optical illusion. I wrote this fairly recently about myself. I was born on Thanksgiving. And I told my mother a lot of years later, I sure fixed your Thanksgiving. And she said, no, it was the best Thanksgiving I ever had because I got my little girl, and that was one of the nicest things she ever said to me. Thursday's Child, inspired by a child's poem. You know that poem, Child of Monday is a child of grace, a child of Tuesday. Okay. A childish rhyme says best what I know. I am Thursday's child. I have far to go. Through paeans of pleasure and dirges of woe, I press ever forward. I have far to go. In shadow and sunshine, mid shower or snow, onward I journey. I have far to go. Through a long life into death's vertigo, I am destined to travel. I have far to go. Chasing always an elusive rainbow past a distant horizon, I have far to go. This one I wrote about reaping what we sow. We all do. Said they, the mill of the gods turns slowly, said they, but it grinds exceeding fine. I replied, let it turn as it must in May. What concern of that is mine? Written in the stars, said they, is a statute older than time, an edict you cannot gainsay, an eternal, undying paradigm. I am the master of my fate, control my destiny. I would learn in the by and by what I could not then foresee. For every deed there's recompense, however slack or slow. Against that rule there is no defense. We reap just what we sow. This is called In Plain Sight, and I wrote it after I lost my glasses for half a day. And then found them on my kitchen table where they've been the whole time. In plain sight, those who seek anonymity need not run or hide or flee. Safer by far than taking flight is hiding somewhere in plain sight. There's nothing quite so hidden away as the evident on subtle display. Searching eyes and probing mind look but never seem to find what should be hidden in a covert place when staring at them face to face. So hide if you must, but bear in mind the obvious is hard to find. I guess this next one is a kind of rebellion. I just got tired of hearing politically incorrect, politically incorrect. So this is, I guess, my answer to it. Passing years offer compensations, recompense, remunerations, small reward for encroaching age, in tacit permission to engage in behavior considered idiosyncratic, opinions bordering on erratic, disingenuous chatter, coarse, unrelenting, language obscene when I'm dissenting, on issues and subjects that may arise, to refuse to relent or apologize, for opinions held in certainty, beliefs that lack modernity, for engaging in hyperbole when telling how it used to be. It's permissible at my age, if I elect, to be blatantly politically incorrect. This one, the name of this one is Cancer, and I wrote it after I had breast cancer. Within her weathered breasts there surged a roaring rage to live, that youth could not understand and age could not forgive. Inside her waning heart was banked passion's vibrant fire, too wise to overkindle the embers of desire. Around her aging brain there swirled an intellect that knew the extravagance of wisdom and its privations too. The curse of age is not decline or visible decay. It is an inward unseen growth that eats a life away. I wrote this next one about my little granddaughter when I saw her playing outside. She just so carefree. She doesn't know. Well, she does now, I guess. She's grown up. But, oh friend, she runs across the meadow, arms spread, hair flowing free, a splash of living color, a curve of frail agility, laughing in the sunlight, dancing with the wind, loveliness in motion, letting her sweet voice blend with songs of feathered creatures perched on or flying high against a brilliant ceiling with cloudless azure sky. Her heart beats high and happy, like the flutter of silken wings, careless of summer's passing, defying what winter brings, disbelieving beauty's brevity, denying that time rescinds, life so abundantly given, youth and folly are old, old friends. I wrote this one after we needed rain for such a long time, and then it came and it wouldn't stop. Curse. After a drought of seasons, yesterday soft as a sigh, slow, gentle rain drifted downward from a sagging, soggy sky, refreshing, rejuvenating the soil, slaking thirsty vegetation. bending a rainbow through the clouds in silent declaration. Today, the earth, each drop drops to the earth like a 10-penny nail, pounding it relentlessly, causing the wind to moan and wail, and the heavens toss like a restless sea. Somewhere a force unseen, unknown, sovereign, supreme, benign, has left the windows of heaven ajar. Such capricious bad absence of mind. The curse of overabundance, a profanity worse than dearth, is the poverty of plenty when it's loosed upon our earth. This one is called cactus flower, extension of a thorny bush. A shire bloom with bend and blush. You boast a garb of curly gold, stand stiff and bold. In thorns you make no excuse to hide, hair skirt for your stubborn pride. This next one I wrote after watching a buzzard. It's called Enigma. Well, there were several of them, really. They flew. Something had died along the side of the road, and they were after him. He soars on wings of motionless grace, borne on the stillness of air, out of reach but not out of sight, before he dips to share the repast that fell by the wayside, roadkill, his banquet's delight, a taste of carrion carcass, before he again takes flight. A paradox past comprehension, why this creature of beauty on high is reduced to a vulgar vulture when he dips from his perch in the sky. Can't believe how ugly those things are when you see them up close, but how beautiful they are flying. This one is called Grass Sea, and if I had an inspiration, I don't remember it. Arising from a whispering sea of silver summer grass, on wings of perfect symmetry, of shimmering stained glass, you fly with languid, halting grace above the glistening green, then sink again in a rippling waves of sighing summer sheen. Again a second time you rise, to fall and to drop down. Is this the butterfly's demise, to fossilize and drown? I wrote this one after a hot day of watching the sun. Shadows sharpen, the sun climbs high, glow brightens to brazen glaze, burning to brass the girlish sky, igniting sparks in the human air. Across the vast and wasted plain, dead grass brown and bent with age, scrolls like a signature of pain across the prairie's primitive page. Cryptic, mysterious notations, puzzling as an ancient rune, surreptitious, secret quotations, scrolls of dry gas and high noon. I'm having trouble getting to my microphone to see. Okay, this is better. This one's called Sam. One Sunday evening, we sat alone, much in the same old way that we had done for 30 years. Sam had a book. I had my crochet. I looked at him and thought as how time had altered his rugged face. A wrinkle here, a crinkle there, in his raven hair. There's now a trace of feathering gray coming into view. Then he lifted his head, closed his book. I could tell he was deep in thought. He gave me a keen and searching look that made my heart beat bubble time. I know that pensive, dark expression. My crochet dropped to my lap. He was going to make another confession. Instead, he said, it's a miracle. after all I've put you through, that you have remained the woman you are, always faithful, always true. Surprised, I spoke aloud my thoughts, just because I've never confessed, then closed my mouth, picked up my tray. Sometimes the ways of silence are best. This one's called Sundown. I wrote it after I watched the sun go down one day. The trees reach shadowy fingers across the river's broad sweep. The winds are off-key singers, lulling birds and branches to sleep. A far coyote, like an old grief, begins his mournful wail, causing memory that slow sly thief to rattle the bars of his sail. The vigilante by day, the sun, swings his looping lasso of light toward the western horizon, as on the run he saddles the skyline for flight. Into the yonder he travels, riding hell-bent for tomorrow, as the web of night unravels in threads of sylvan sorrow. Questions? What?
Do you write these down as they come to you, or did you set a little time aside every day?
It takes time. I suppose that I really work on each poem I write it and write briefly what I think it is, will be. No, not at once. I have to go back and look at it, read it again and decide. It's not, poetry I think is the hardest of the literary forms to write because you have to work with so many things. You have to have your meter right, you have to have your rhyme right, you have to write the words so that they blend to where people talk and can understand it. It's difficult for me. Maybe some people can do that, but I can't.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I heard there's a beautiful little couplet by Shakespeare that says, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when once we practice to deceive." I heard that someone, when she was in school, added to that a couple of lines and got in trouble. Do you remember what those lines were?
But once we practiced for a while, how vastly we improve our style. I won't do it again. Yes, I did that. And yes, I got in trouble. Second encounter. It seemed such a compromising place for a doll with a cracking china face and a faded dress of tatted lace. She sat on a low shelf near the door in an out-of-the-way antique store. I had seen that painted face before. Antique, her weighted eyes were closed, a part of her padded body exposed. No one would have her house supposed. There was a time long ago when she sat beneath a glowing Christmas tree, dressed in glittering finery, a ribbon in her long blonde hair, wearing an elegant, diffident air. Time takes its toll as it slips away. Age for beauty is the price we pay. Little doll, I too am a castaway. This one is called To Each His Own. And it's so hot in the summers, and people talk about the nice summer days, and I guess this is just kind of saying, wait a minute, they aren't all that way. What a lovely night in June. High in the sky floats a cantaloupe moon. On a whipping cream cloud you could eat with a spoon. In the branches of the Wasatch tree, a hidden cricket symphony is playing a three-note melody. Heaven, I'm told, is a land of pure light, a place where never falls a night. And maybe that will be all right for those who live where a golden haze colors all their summer days. But in the Into the light they will sing their praise. But those of us who choose to dwell where the sun makes summer days a hell, will ask of paradise, will tell of nights caressed by a gentle breeze, hidden cricket symphonies, and a cantaloupe moon in the Wasatch trees. I skipped one. Okay. This one is called Twilight. Now night hangs silver stars in the sky. Nails silver stars in the sky and hangs up a transparent moon, repairing ravages of heat and day, and not a moment too soon. Wrapping the sorrows of night in a mantle of twilight hues, purple and indigo and hues, and soft and somber blues. Deepening darkness moves to erase little woes and afflictions. The evening breeze is sighing sounds that soothe like benedictions. Tranquility, rare, precious gift, but fleeting and transitory. Like a borrowed moment out of time, its brevity is its glory. Okay. This one is called Texas Town. We used to live very near Somerset, and I wrote it after I got up one Sunday morning and we didn't have any milk. And that's about the worst thing can happen in our house, no milk. So I got in my car and went to Somerset early that morning to get milk. And this is the result of the poem. In the east, this blazing ball of sun climbs every steadily higher and higher. Overhead, a jet plane soars high, cutting a vapor incision across the sky. Up and down the wakening street dance limpid waves of its shimmering heat. Stench of garbage, smell of gas, mixed with the scent of fresh-cut grass. The humid air sweltering, Catholic bells begin to ring. Again, above the din of an auto horn, small town Texas Sunday morning. Yeah, Somerset. That's it. This one, I watched this young woman go into a shop, and just, as I watched it, I just afterwards wrote this poem. I watched her mother, young and slim, with two small children in tow, and thought as she lifted the smaller one, how swiftly the years can come and go. Floral skirt cut to the knee, long flowing silken hair, such bright-eyed vulnerability. One child on her hip and one by the hand. She stood for a moment or two in the entrance of the busy mart, assessing what next to do. With agile grace, she retrieved a cart and with a sigh and a smile, deposited both the children inside and sauntered down the aisle. Her slippers slapped the colorful tile as she paused before a shelf, comparing labels, pursuing a list, conversing with herself. The weighty tread of old memories tracked heavily across my mind, recalling again a dear dead past I long ago left behind. For such a tender moment I stood, as nostalgia washed over me, remembering, recalling, regretting a sad fun used to be, pondering the brevity of time and fortune and circumstance, thinking that I'd go back again if I only had the chance. This one I wrote after my husband died.